So Google's OKF, which is Open Knowledge Format, which was released about 6 weeks ago, already has got an interesting update, which is all really about trust. Basically, think of giving your agent a way to know whether the thing it just read, the knowledge, is worth believing. Now, if none of that meant anything to you, that's perfectly all right. Please hear me out because this is actually way simpler than it sounds. So the background to all of this is Google released a format called OKF, and it's all about writing down knowledge or context in a structured format. Think of all the context that sits around your data and your systems. For example, what is in a particular Oracle or BigQuery database? What are the metrics definitions? For example, what your company means when it says active users. And you will write all of this as a markdown file in a folder. And that is the whole OKF format. Think of it as everything that lives in your most senior person's head written down so that you and your agent both can read it. And that was great when it launched, but then very quickly people figured out that something was missing. So did Google. See, these files were never really meant to be completely written by humans. That was the whole point. Actually, OKF was built for agents and keeping the agents in the center of it. Agents will write these and then update these and then will also read it. Now, when a person writes a wiki page, there's a guarantee that goes along with it because if something goes wrong, there's a name associated with it and you can go ask. Now, take the person out of the equation and the guarantee just disappears. So your agent will open one of these files and it has no idea whether it's reading something a human signed off or something another agent made up by hallucination. And that's not an enterprise only problem, by the way. At a company, it's did the VP of finance actually approve this definition? For you and I who are using agents on a daily basis, it could be, did I actually write this down or did an agent write it and I never went back and checked? Exact same problem, but just two different types of states. Both will waste a lot of time and resources. So that is what this update is all about. On paper, this sounds like very small, a handful of optional fields, but I think conceptually it's a much bigger deal than the version number makes it look. So you can now record who generated a file and separately who verified it. Those are two different facts and the format finally treats them that way. So the plan for this video is as follows. First, the what, right? What OKF is, what is this new update, straight from the spec, assuming you've never heard of it today. Then the why, the specific thing that was missing in version 1. And then most of the video is about the how. So we're going to build an OKF bundle from scratch in the new version for something that's actually mine, which is my own YouTube channel. And then we're going to point an agent at it and see what it does. So by the end of this video, you will be able to go create an OKF bundle yourself. And that's the whole point of making this whole video. All right. So before we get into this, all opinions are my own and do not belong to my employer. With that, let's get into it. All right. So now I'm in the GitHub repository on the Open Knowledge Catalog repo, and you can actually see that the spec was updated yesterday. So we're looking at it fresh. I think the best way is for us to read the definition that Google has provided. So if you look at this, they define OKF as an open, human, and agent-friendly format for representing knowledge, which is equal to the metadata, the context, and curated insights that surrounds the data and system. Not the data itself, but everything that surrounds the data, and which is very important, right? Because everybody has data, but what people sometimes have missing is the metadata around it. And the format is intentionally minimal. This is just a directory of markdown files, as I had mentioned before. There's no registry, no central authority. So this is very simple because you can just create a file and then if you can git clone it, you are able to ship it very quickly. Now, this is very important for us to see. It is designed to be authored by people, but generated by agents and then exchanged across organizations and consumed by both. So you can already see the future thinking about this, right? Where the expectation is this is going to be generated by the agents, right? So this is pretty cool. And this is a really good definition. Now, another thing that you can see here is the terminology. Now, this is the updated version. So this is version 0.2. So there are new things which have been added here. So you can already see things like bundle, right? So this is the unit of distribution. So whenever you're creating, like when someone says create an OKF, you're basically creating a bundle. That's what I have created for the demo. And that's what you should be or you would be creating once you have understood this today, right? And then as part of the bundle, you have all of these different things, right? So concept ID and stuff like that. I'll share this link, and a lot of it I already explained in the last video, which was the intro to OKF. You're welcome to look into that. So the latest update is all around provenance, trust, and lifecycle, right? It records the source. It also records whether it was generated or not, whether it was verified or not, right? So this is all there. And then there are multiple trust tiers. It also defines the lifecycle. So this will become very clear when we do the demo. And then you can also define a rule in the future. So something will become stale after. So this is pretty cool, the thought process behind this, right? So what also caught my attention was here they've talked about what is must and what is not, right? So most of these are optional. You do not need anything else but just the type, right? So just keep that in mind. But obviously, once if you're able to provide more and more details, then it becomes much more powerful. Okay. So that is the what, right? So as I promised, I will start with what exactly this is. Now, the next one is why, right? So for why, let me get into the blog. So this is where they talked about how well this was received. A lot of contributions were received, etc. So this actually made them reflect on a larger potential concern, right? Which is once agents are writing to the corpus, can it be really trusted? There are 5 questions which they're trying to answer with this update, which is what was this created from? Provenance. How much should I trust it? Trust. Is it still true? Freshness. Is this the current version life cycle? And was this number produced the way we said it will be? So attestation. So these are the things which I also mentioned in the beginning, but this is super critical. So once you have this understanding, then you will know whether to exactly trust this bundle or not, right? As I mentioned earlier also, it feels like a very small point to release, but I think it's super critical. So that's what I wanted to show you on the why, right? So we covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. All right. So before we build our own bundle, let's look at what has been already provided by Google so that it becomes very easy for us to replicate that, right? So when you come to this particular repo, you will see that they have provided these 4 bundles. I think this is the one which has been added like very recently, which is already in the new version, the new format. So let's actually look into that, right? So when I come here, you will see that these are all different folders. And if you look at the folder structure, right, you will see that tables, metrics, and policies, these are basically the knowledge about what things mean. What is inside the table? How do we define gross margin? What is a revenue recognition policy says? So if you look at computation, attesters, and skills, right, that's the other half of this update. And it's about providing a number that was calculated the sanctioned way instead of the agent writing its own query. So let's open one of them. So for example, if I open the table, which is orders.md, this immediately tells me that this is like a big query table and it gives you the title, the description. So everything about the table itself, everything about the data. So think of it as kind of metadata. It talks about the schema and stuff like that, right? What is very interesting is this visualization, right? Which is wiz.html. And this is where you will see the latest update coming to fruition, right? If I click on any one of this, it gives you the details on the right-hand side. So for example, you see some of these are freight rates. So for example, gross margin, right? This is grayed out because it's deprecated. And right next to it is the actual gross margin, which is not deprecated. So if you look at this one, it's human reviewed and it's a retired gross margin definition. So you already know that it has been reviewed by a human and it's retired and deprecated. And this one is again human reviewed, but it is stable. So these are the new batches and all of these things which are available, which was not part of the previous version update, right? So it's also generated as verified by the VP of Finance. This is generated by an agent, but is verified by a human, right? So now that you have understood the overall structure of OKF, what are the different folders and what are the folders intended to do, and also the part of the visualization, when you click on this, what comes out and stuff like that, what we will do is we will create our own OKF bundle, right? And in the end, you will be able to see a similar visualization from our own. So the example I'm going to take is of my own channel. This is my channel analytics, right? So this is like over the period of 1 year. These are the number of views I've got and stuff like that. So what I've done is exported this and I've uploaded this in my BigQuery. The information needs to be about the data. Now it is 2026 and I do not want to create a bundle myself by writing all the .md files. What we will do is we will go to Antigravity and we will ask it to create the bundle for us. Okay, so the next step is going to Antigravity. All right, so I'm in Antigravity and I have a brand new folder which has got nothing. So the first thing which I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to clone the same repository that we just saw, right? So now you have the same knowledge catalog, we have the samples, and this is where the OKF is. And you have all of these 4 bundles that we saw over there, right? So I'm going to be leveraging and using as much as we can from the original sample. So here is the prompt that I am going to give to Antigravity. You can see it over here, which is read OKF spec.md in this repo, and then create an OKF version point 2 bundle for AI with Surya with 4 concept files. Number one is the data set, which is in my BigQuery. So you obviously know about everything about your own data, right? So these are the resources. So I'm asking Antigravity to do the documentation. So then the second piece is successful video.md, right? So video is successful when average percentage viewed is greater than 35 and impressions click-through rate is this. So this could be any rules that you want to give. And then in order to explain you why this new version is important, I'm going to also create another one, which is video performance standard, right? So this is how I'm calling, like I'm giving 2 different matrices. And this is an important part, right? Because in a normal scenario, what happens is you could look at a success criteria from a different lens and someone else could look at it from a completely different lens, right? And this happens a lot in an organization. So there could be a lot of matrices where the success criteria is defined differently. And the agent will always get confused on which one is the right one, right? So that is where OKF becomes very interesting and important because you can actually describe that, hey, this success criteria is now deprecated. We are going to follow this unique definition across the board. So Antigravity comes back with the implementation plan. So I'm just going to say proceed, and it's going to go ahead and create the bundle, right? And this is what OKF is really all about, right? So once you have done this, you have actually created the entire bundle that is required for OKF. All right, so it actually created our bundle here, and you can see that this is all the things that it was able to create. So this is the visualization here. So I've already downloaded it and I'm going to open this up. And this is what you have, right? You can see on the right-hand side, it tells you the video library, which is the resources over here. This talks about the video standard.md. This is the successful.md, and this is the video underperforms, right? So as a next step, what we're going to do is actually quickly have a conversation with it via an ADK agent. So I already created the ADK agent and pointed it to this particular bundle. So what we will do next is I will show you how we will talk with the agent. Okay. So we'll get into that now. All right. So I'm going to run my ADK agent with this particular command. If you're interested in understanding how to create an ADK agent from scratch using agent CLI, let me know. Happy to make a video around it. ADK is definitely my favorite agent building platform, and I'm very happy to go into the details of it. So please let me know in the comment section. So now we have launched the ADK web, which is a dev UI. And I'm going to ask this particular question, right? How many views does a video need before I would call it successful? So look at the question. I'm trying to make it a little bit more difficult, right? So this is where it needs to look at the bundle here. So this is the OKF agent. It doesn't need to query anything, but here it is finding that, hey, I have this particular criteria. A video is considered successful if it has this, but there is also another one. Depending on which definition you want to use, I can answer this particular question. So this is pretty cool. And actually, this is a learning moment. So the reason why this is happening is because when I go to my file here, right? So this is the 2 metrics we had created. And I'd mentioned that there is a reason why we are doing it. So if you look at this closely, here, the status of this one is stable. You can see it clearly tells that it was generated by Gemini 3.5 Flash, which is via Antigravity. And in this one also, I'm seeing that the status is stable. So what I can do is I can actually change the status to deprecated, right? And I can just save it. If I go back to my agent here and I start a new session, I'm just going to ask the same question over here. Now, what you would see is it will pick up the rule from the one which is not deprecated, right? You can see the difference here. And this is a very practical example because in the organization, there could be multiple rules. So as long as you are able to maintain and manage the OKF bundle, which is nothing but pure English, your agent is never going to hallucinate. And hence you are able to trust your agent. And that is the coolest thing that I wanted to demonstrate, which is what the version 0.2 release brings to the table. So that's what I really wanted to show. In this video, we not only created an OKF bundle, and I'm hoping now it is very easy for you to create that bundle, but we also actually made a real agent created via ADK, have a conversation with it, made it get confused, and then we went back and ensured that we changed something, and then we went back and corrected it, corrected the confusion. All right. So I hope this was helpful. There were some other questions that were being asked of me, for example, the difference between RAG and OKF, and also anything related to ADK. If you want me to work on a video around that, please do let me know in the comment section. And if you are new here, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me a lot. And if you're an existing subscriber, thank you for your time. Please do hit that like button if you liked the video. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.